She lost the second set to Love. 6 games. 0. A player who beat a top 3 opponent 3 weeks earlier, who arrived in Toronto unbeaten in 7 straight matches, who had just become the first Filipino ever to win a WTA singles title, reduced to a bagel in 30 minutes. But here's what nobody was talking about. The injury that ended her run didn't happen against Belinda Bencic. It happened 2 nights earlier, and she played through it anyway. Stay with me. It's the morning after the McNally match. Alex Eala is sitting in a physio room in Toronto, her right ankle wrapped in ice, and she's telling her team the same thing she just told a room full of reporters. I'm okay. She says it twice, like she's convincing herself as much as anyone else. Her phone won't stop buzzing. Outside, her name is trending across an entire country. Inside, she can barely rotate her foot without wincing. That contradiction, the public I'm fine, and the private wince, that's where this story actually starts. SoBe Stadium, Toronto, Center Court. A Monday morning back home in Manila, which means it's still Sunday night in Canada, and somehow it doesn't matter, the crowd shows up anyway. Philippine flags fill entire sections, draped over railings, waved above heads, some painted on faces. Chants of her name roll down from the upper bowl in waves, loud enough that broadcasters mention it on air. The tournament director had to move her matches to Center Court because ticket demand from the Filipino community alone had passed 5,000. This is not supposed to happen in the round of 16 of a mid-tier summer tournament in Canada. This is supposed to happen in finals, in front of a home crowd, on a stage built for exactly this kind of moment. It's happening now, in a foreign country, in a mid-tier round, because of what she did 3 weeks earlier, and what she survived 2 nights before this one. And underneath all of it, quietly, invisibly, her ankle still hasn't healed. Rewind 6 weeks. Alex Eala is 21 years old, ranked outside the top 40, known mostly as a name insiders whispered about a Rafael Nadal Academy product. A talented junior who'd shown flashes but hadn't broken through, the kind of player scouts kept saying was close, without ever quite explaining close to what. Then, Washington happens. The Mobadala DC Open. She wins 5 matches in a week, grinding through qualifiers nobody was covering, and then walks into a final against Jessica Pegula, the world number 3. A player with a decade more experience and a Ursum built for exactly these moments. Eala loses the first set, comes back, wins the second, buries the third, 6-0. She becomes the first Filipino player, man or woman, in the history of the sport to win a WTA Tour singles title. Not runner-up. Not a good week. A title with her name on it, and a nation of over 100 million people who had never had a tennis champion suddenly had one. From there, it doesn't slow down. She lands in Toronto still running on adrenaline and keeps winning. A win over Alicia Parks to open the tournament. Then a 3-set war against Caty McNally that stretches to 2 hours and 39 minutes a match, where she's up 5-4 serving for it, 1 game from a clean sweep, and McNally claws the second set away from her to force a decider. Most players lose that match mentally before it even restarts. Eala finds another gear instead, closes it out 6-3, 5-7, 6-4. 7 wins in a row now, across 2 countries and 2 tournaments, and a ranking that's climbed to a career-high number 20 in the world. She's beaten 3 Grand Slam champions this season. She's beaten an Olympic gold medalist. 21 years old, and by every measure that matters on tour. She is no longer a story about potential. She is simply, undeniably, good. That's the peak. That's the moment right before everything changes. Because in the middle of beating McNally's second set, mid-rally, nothing dramatic about the shot itself, just a routine forehand she lands wrong. Rolls her right ankle. The kind of fall that looks like nothing on a replay and feels like everything in the moment. She calls the physio out mid-match. They tape it on court, in front of thousands of people who go quiet all at once, waiting to see if the run ends right there. It doesn't. She goes back out and finishes the job anyway. Afterward, in the press room, still catching her breath, she downplays it the way athletes are trained to. No serious problems, she says. But she also says something else, almost as an aside, almost like she doesn't realize how much it reveals. I am as tired as one can be at this stage. Nobody in that room fully clocks what that sentence is about to cost her. It sounds like exhaustion talk. It is actually a warning delivered 48 hours early to anyone paying close enough attention. Because the tape comes off before the Bencic match. The pain doesn't. Here's what almost nobody accounts for going into that fourth-round match. By the time Eala walks out to face Belinda Bencic, she's played 5 matches in 6 days, across a rain-delayed final in Washington, a flight to another country, a singles match, a doubles match alongside Venus Williams, and a 3-set survival act against McNally that would have drained a fully healthy body, let alone one carrying a rolled ankle. Bencic, meanwhile, is not some overmatched name filling a bracket. She's a former world number 4, a Tokyo Olympic gold medalist, a woman who won this exact tournament back in 2015 as an 18-year-old, beating 4 top 10 players along the way, including Serena Williams. And she hasn't lost to a left-handed opponent since 2024, a streak she carries into this match without even needing to think about it. Because her game is simply built to solve exactly this kind of problem. The first set is close. Genuinely close. Eala trails 4-2, claws it back to 4-4, and for one game just won, the whole stadium believes it's still her night. You can hear it in the crowd, that specific kind of noise that only happens when people think they're about to witness something. Then, Bencic breaks her serve in the 9th game and closes it out, 6-4. Not a blowout. A warning. The second set is where the ankle shows up. Not as an excuse, as a fact you can watch happen in real time, frame by frame, if you know what you're looking for. Her movement, which had been the single most electric part of her game all week, the footwork that made her impossible to pin down, the recovery speed that let her turn defense into offense in a single stride, gets a half step slower. Just a half step. But at this level, a half step is the difference between a clean winner and a ball sailing just wide. The angles she'd been hitting all tournament, the ones that had been finding the lines for 2 weeks straight, start missing by inches. Bencic, sensing it before the crowd even fully registers what's happening, stops giving her anything to work with. Stops rushing. Starts making Eala move corner to corner, over and over, testing the one part of her body that can't answer the question. 6 games later, it's over. 6-0. The whole set takes 30 minutes. 30 minutes to erase 2 weeks. Afterward, in the press conference, the smile that had been on her face for 2 weeks straight is gone. And she doesn't hide behind that. She doesn't perform composure for the cameras. She tells reporters the ankle from the McNally match never fully healed. That she'd been getting treatment between matches, ice, taping, whatever her team could manage in the gaps, but there's only so much treatment can do in 48 hours. That it affected her movement, her timing, her ability to load into her shots the way the game demands. It's one of those matches that really could have gone either way. She says the same phrase, almost word for word, that she'd used 2 nights earlier after beating McNally, except this time there's no win attached to it, and the words land completely differently. Today, I just couldn't find my rhythm. No excuses. No blaming Bencic, who for the record was excellent that day. 6 of 10 break points converted, 72% of first serves won, barely a wasted point. Just an honest accounting, delivered calmly, of a body that had been asked to do too much, too fast, on a joint that was never given the chance to reset. Let that sit for a second. Here's the part that should feel like a contradiction and isn't. Losing 6-4, 6-0 should be the moment people stop paying attention to Alex Eala. A scoreline like that, on the surface, reads like a collapse. Instead, it's the moment they start paying closer attention than ever. Because a scoreline like that, on its own, tells you a player got outclassed. But a scoreline like that, with the full context, 5 matches in 6 days, a rolled ankle 2 nights earlier, a body running on fumes against a former world number 4 who has nothing left to prove and everything to gain, tells you something completely different. It tells you what it actually costs her to keep saying yes, to not withdraw when withdrawing would have been the easy defensible choice, to tape the ankle and walk back out anyway, twice in the same week, in front of a crowd that traveled thousands of miles just to watch her try. The loss didn't shrink the story. It gave the story its stakes. That's the paradox sitting underneath all of this. The defeat is the thing that finally proves the run wasn't luck. Nobody flukes their way to a 7-match winning streak on a bad ankle. Luck doesn't survive 3 sets against Caty McNally with a taped joint. You only find out how real something is when it breaks under pressure, and what broke here wasn't her game. It was her body. Those are 2 very different endings, and only one of them should actually worry you. And this is exactly why it travels beyond the sport. This is why a 4th-round loss at a midsummer tournament in Toronto is being talked about from Manila to Melbourne, on group chats and comment sections that have nothing to do with tennis. Because underneath the scoreline, this is a story everyone recognizes from somewhere in their own life. The version of yourself that keeps showing up even when everything in you says, stop. The version that says I'm okay out loud while wincing where nobody can see it. Every single person watching this has been the kid who played through an injury because the team needed them that day. The employee who showed up sick because the deadline didn't care how they felt. The one who kept going, past the point of comfort, because stopping felt like letting somebody down, a coach, a family, a whole country. A nation of over 100 million people found a piece of themselves in a 21-year-old's taped-up ankle. That's not a tennis story anymore. That's a human one, and it's the reason people who couldn't tell you the rules of a tiebreak still stopped to watch this match, and she is nowhere near finished writing it. She's 21, ranked 20 in the world, a number that didn't exist for her 6 weeks ago, and one that will almost certainly look outdated within a year. Cincinnati is next to hard, fast court that rewards exactly the kind of first-strike baseline power she plays with. The kind of surface where her game has room to fully open up once her body catches up to it. After that, the US Open, the one Grand Slam played on American soil, where a Filipino crowd will follow her the same way Toronto's did, except louder, because it's New York, because the stage is bigger, and because by then the whole country will know her name the way Toronto already does. Beyond that, and this isn't a guess, this is arithmetic, a ranking climbing this fast on this surface. At this age, points toward one thing tour insiders are already saying quietly among themselves: a top 10 finish isn't a matter of if. It's a matter of which season, which surface, and whether that ankle gets the real recovery time it was never given this month. So go back to that scoreline, 6-4, 6-0. On paper, it's the worst loss of her season. The kind of result that gets buried in a highlight reel nobody wants to make. In practice, it's the moment we found out exactly what she's willing to sacrifice to keep playing, and exactly how much more is still sitting there, unclaimed, waiting for a healthy ankle to finally catch up to it. She didn't lose because she wasn't good enough. She lost because she refused to stop being good enough on a leg that had already given everything it had left. Remember that scoreline. In a year, it won't be the headline anymore. It'll be the footnote that explains everything that came after the sentence buried in every retrospective that starts with even after Toronto. So here's the question. When Alex Eala walks out in New York next month, healthy, rested, and still just 21, do you think she beats a top 10 player before this season is over? Tell me who you think it is in the comments. In a few years, when everyone knows this name you'll want a record of when you knew first.